So, I did 5 groups sort of at the back of the book last night, and I left the glue to set. So we're in a situation now where everything's basically ready for the loom. So, but first it's probably worth just having a look at how these turned out. So, if we look at this guy here, I'm actually really pleased with it because maybe the easiest thing is if I just tilt this up a little bit, it'll kind of illustrate the point here. If I take this and sort of open it up like so, you see how it folds? So basically what that's saying is that this bottom sort of 1/4 inch along here, the glue has completely penetrated all of the paper. So now this is in effect one solid unit along here. And that's just simply by the glue sort of using capillary action, just making its way down between the pages and then sticking them together. And that just creates a really nice tough matrix. So the result of that is, this is pretty robust, which is great. And I should emphasize, the only purpose of me gluing on this little strip of paper outside as a wrap is so that the needle has something to push through and the thread has something to hold on to when we actually rebuild the text block. This paper is not here to bind these pages together. That was done by the glue. So it's really the glue that's doing the work here. So anyway, so they've all turned out like this. So what I've basically done quickly is I've actually gone ahead and done the rest of the text block. So basically all of those sort of gatherings are there sort of drying. So that'll sort of continue through the afternoon. But I wanted first to sort of have a look at how I'm actually proposing to use the loom here. So these are the sort of, as I said, the sort of 5 rearwardmost groups of pages in the book. So probably the very, very first thing, I'm going to do something rather bizarre. And that is, I'm actually going to lightly grease these bits of twine with a little bit of coconut oil. And you're probably thinking, what on earth am I doing? But it's, the issue here is I want these strings to be slippery. And the reason for that is, at the moment, at the bottom they're just sort of tied there at a knot. And you've got all this length coming off the top here. Well, eventually I'm going to need sort of equal lengths of string both sides, so I can actually attach boards and so on and so forth. Which means I'm going to have to pull the string through the loops that I create, the raised bands in other words. And what I don't want to be doing is fighting against a whole load of sort of friction and having the threads sort of fray and break as I pull this through. So what this does is it just reduces the friction, just makes it a lot more slippery. So that process should later on be a great deal easier. So with that, just grab that here. So with that done, what I'm now in a position to do is to sort of prepare these for sewing. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to mark where I'm going to sort of insert holes to actually push the thread through. Now, these don't need to be super perfectly aligned yet. They'll still be loose even when they're sort of tied in. The point of alignment only comes a lot later when we actually put a final covering of glue on and a layer of fabric. So for now, they can just sit like this. What I'm going to do is I've just got a Sharpie here, and I'm actually just going to mark the back. I'm just going to push slightly this way just to account for the Sharpie. I'm actually just going to mark with brown. Now this will be completely invisible once the book's put back together, so don't worry about it being a rather inauthentic dye. But it's just a way of me knowing where I'm going to actually put the, there we go, where I'm going to put the needle. Okay, now that that's done, I'll just take the, that fell. Okay, I'm just going to take the bottom one here. That's just to demonstrate. There we go. So I've got my marks. It looks like I'm still. This one didn't quite get marked, so I'm just gonna. Being around the very bottom there. Okay, good. Yeah. So, what I'm now going to do is use a robust needle with a thimble to actually push holes through each of these. So, now, this isn't a true gathering, so it doesn't really matter too much, but it's probably worth just thinking through, okay, what's going to be the sequence of how I'm going to sew this. So what I think I'm going to do is each of these groups are typically 12 leaves or 24 pages. So what I'm probably going to do is go up with the thread, probably between leaf 4 and 5, and then come back between leaf 8 and 9. So basically each of these will have in effect two passage of thread going up and then coming back. So what I'm going to do is one, two, because this is the last one in the book, the pages are actually a little fragile here. So what I'm going to do here is just work my way through using line of sight a little bit, just to push through the needle like that. So I just did that there, and just do the same with, whoops, each of these. I'm using a reasonably fat needle here, like so. It's only having to go through one layer of paper, obviously, because I only glued one layer of paper on. Don't forget, this is not a true gathering with sort of pages nested together. So it's, which is an important point, because what that means is that the strength of binding here is being done by the glue. It's not being done, to my earlier point, by this little piece of paper here. All right, so with that done, I'm now going to attempt to sew. So what I've got is, I'm going to find a needle with the thread that I'm going to use. So let's give this a go. First off, what I'm going to do, this is where we'll really work out if this loom is going to be really viable or not. Okay, so I'm going to push the knot there to the bottom. So, first thing we're going to do is count 4 leaves. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to go through my hole. Situations where you feel where was my hole? There it is. There it was. Okay. And as I get to there, I'm going to put a simple slip knot in. Okay, lesson learned there, which is do it like this and make sure that there we go. That's what I want. Now I come down and so on. Now, wait to the wires, keep a little marker in so you can always count your 4 leaves. Managed to unthread my needle. Okay. Now we go back in here. So, all right, so that's basically the principle of it there. So I'm going to go back in and then come back up the other side and just do the same all the way up until eventually the whole text block is assembled on the loom. That's the process.